Good evening. How are you?
We have delivered your stories with care across 70 locations around the world. Philippine Airlines Cargo, care that delivers. Experience the full power of the BYD effect.
Have you ever wondered why some women seem to effortlessly capture a man's attention without trying too hard? Is it really about flashy looks, loud moves, or scripted lines? Or is there something deeper, something quieter that holds a man's gaze and lingers in response long after the moment has passed? What if I told you that the real power of attraction isn't about putting on a show, but about embracing the subtle, almost invisible things you already do naturally? That's right, those tiny, authentic gestures that aren't rehearsed or forced, that's simply part of your presence, your essence. Too often, women are told to be louder, bolder, more dramatic, to fit into someone else's idea of sexy. But how well does that really work? How many times have you tried to fit that mold only to feel exhausted, misunderstood, or like you're losing yourself? Here's where the problem lies. Society's shallow scripts tell us that sexiness is a costume, a performance, something to chase. But in reality, what turns a man on isn't a role you play. It's the real you, living and breathing with confidence and calm. How do you unlock that?
What it really means when a married man wants you. What it really means when a married man wants you. Carl Jung. Imagine this. You're living your life. You're not chasing anything. You're not even asking for attention. But then he appears. He's charming, attentive. He listens. He lingers. But there's a problem. He's already taken. A wife, a girlfriend, a family maybe. And yet, something in his presence pulls you in. Or maybe, something in you responds to his energy. You didn't start this, but now you're here. And the question echoes, what does it really mean when a man who's committed wants you? Let's go deeper, not with judgment, but with truth. Because according to Carl Jung, this isn't about romance. It's not even about you. It's about him and what's unresolved inside him. When a man reaches for another woman while already in a relationship, it's rarely just lust. It's rarely even about the woman herself. It's about a longing to meet something he has lost within himself. Jung called this the pursuit of the anima, the feminine energy within a man's unconscious. It's not just a woman he wants. It's the feeling he believes she will awaken in him, a sense of vitality, mystery, possibility, a spark he once had, or never did. And so, he projects this need onto a real person, onto you, not because of who you are, but because of what you represent to him. It's like holding a glass to his own emptiness and thinking that your presence will fill it. But here's the truth. You were never meant to carry that weight. Many women blame themselves. They ask, did I invite this? Was I too open? Is there something wrong with me for even responding? Let me be clear, your energy is not the problem, but it is magnetic. And if it awakens something in him, it says more about his absence than your presence. Because a man who is whole, a man who is aligned, a man who honors the vows he made, will feel attraction, yes, but he will contain it. He will respect it. He will choose not to act on it. The fact that he reached for you doesn't mean you're special, and it doesn't mean you're not. It means he is split inside himself. And Jung warned us about this split, about the man who lives on the surface but is ruled by what he refuses to look at, who smiles in the daylight but is led by shadows at night. If you've ever found yourself caught in this emotional triangle, or on the edge of one, you know how confusing it can be. You tell yourself, he must really feel something, or he wouldn't risk it. He must be unhappy in his relationship. He must see something in me that no one else does. But that's the story your heart tells itself, to soften the edges of chaos. Because the truth is harder. A man can crave connection without being ready for it. He can pursue depth while still living shallow. He can long for your light and but still live in a room full of closed doors. And Jung knew. The unconscious seeks balance. So if a man feels lost, numb, lifeless, his psyche will look for the opposite to restore him. But if he hasn't done his inner work, he won't see you clearly. He'll see a version of you that matches his need, not your reality. So what does he want from you? Validation, mystery, the feeling of being alive again. He wants the illusion of a second chance, without facing the truth about the first one. He wants your softness, but not your needs. He wants your light, but not your boundaries. He wants the way you see him, but not the mirror you'd eventually become. Because make no mistake, the deeper your connection becomes, the more he would have to confront who he really is and what he has left unresolved. And unless he's done that work, he won't stay. He can't. Not without breaking something, you or him. You were not born to be anyone's emotional rehab. You were not created to carry what another refuses to hold. When he comes to you with words like, "I've never felt this before," you're different. She doesn't understand me like you do. These aren't always lies, but they're not truths either. They are projections, whispers from a broken self, longing to escape responsibility and feel good again. But what happens when that high wears off? When you begin to want more? When you ask, "Where is this going? What am I to you?" That's when the distance begins. That's when the story starts to fracture. Because for him, this wasn't about building something. It was about escaping something, and Carl Jung reminds us, anything that begins in the shadow must be brought to the light, or it will destroy both the seeker and the source. So no, it's not your fault. But yes, you have a choice. You can step back. You can ask the deeper question, why did I let this get this far? What in me responded to something that I knew wasn't aligned? Because as much as he is projecting onto you, you may be projecting something onto him. Maybe you thought he saw the real you. Maybe you believed you were finally being chosen. Maybe you felt for once like you mattered. And that's where it gets painful. Because maybe, just maybe, it's not the man you wanted. It's the feeling, the moment, the reflection, the idea that you could be worth chasing. But let me tell you, you don't need someone else's chaos to prove your value. You don't need to be desired in secrecy to know you are enough in the open. You don't need stolen moments to feel wanted. Because your worth was never meant to live in the margins of someone else's life. You are not a detour. You are not a pause. You are not a thrill in the middle of someone else's confusion. You are a mirror, a soul, a woman whose presence wakes things in others, but is not responsible for what they do with that awakening. And Jung said it best, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life true, and you will call it fate. So let him deal with his fate. Let him face his mirror, and let you rise, free from the weight of what was never yours to carry. The hidden patterns that make you say yes. Before we continue, a gentle reminder. If parts of this message are resonating with you, you may want to explore the Jung method, a deeply reflective tool to help you understand your patterns, reclaim your inner voice, and finally align with the life you deserve. The link is in the first comment. Now, back to the truth that's been waiting. So far, we've explored why he wants you. But let's be honest, that's only half of the story. Because he can want, but it's you who allows. You who opens. You who lets it linger. Even if only in your mind at first. And that's not weakness. That's not failure. That's a signpost that something inside you has been hungry for attention, depth, connection, even if it came from the wrong place. Carl Jung spoke often of the shadow, not just in others, but in ourselves. The parts of us we bury, the needs we ignore, the desires we label as wrong, so they go underground and show up in ways we don't expect. So, if you found yourself pulled into something that doesn't align with your values, it's not because you're broken. It's because something in your shadow was speaking. Let's name it. Maybe you've spent your whole life being the good woman, the one who waits, who gives, who puts everyone first and herself last. And then, this man sees you. desires you. And for once you feel visible, chosen, needed. But here's the truth. Being seen by someone unavailable isn't real visibility. It's emotional bait. And if you're starving, even crumbs can taste like a meal. So ask yourself honestly, what did I hope to feel through this connection? Not what you hoped he would do, but what you hoped to feel. Safe, wanted, finally enough. Because that's the root. That's the thread that leads back to the wound. And until that part of you is acknowledged, until she is seen, held, and healed, you will always find yourself repeating the same emotional pattern in different clothes. Jung believed that we are drawn to people not just because of attraction, but because they reflect a part of us we have not yet made peace with. So when you are pulled to someone unavailable, you must ask, what am I still unavailable to within myself? Is it your truth? Is it your anger? Is it your right to be fully chosen, not hidden, not negotiated, but claimed? Because sometimes being the other woman isn't about seduction. It's about self-abandonment disguised as connection. You let yourself be part of a half-truth because you've forgotten how to stand in your whole truth. Let's be honest. It's not just the man who's conflicted. You may be too, because there's a part of you that knows this isn't safe. This won't last. This will end in heartbreak or guilt, or both. And yet, you stayed. Why? Because pain is familiar. Because you've confused chaos with chemistry. Because deep down you were afraid that no one free would choose you. So you accepted someone who wasn't. Let that sink in. Not with shame, but with compassion. Because that's how healing begins. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And sometimes we use other people as distractions from our own inner emptiness. But here's the good news. Awareness changes everything. The moment you name the pattern, you loosen its grip. The moment you see why you stayed, you can finally choose to walk away. You don't have to keep betraying yourself just to feel wanted by someone who can't fully give. Let's get practical now. If you're in a situation like this, or healing from one, what can you do? 1. Write the truth, not the story. Sit down. Write exactly what happened. No filters, no fantasy. Not what you wished it was, but what it really was. Then read it aloud. Hear the parts you've been avoiding. That clarity will hurt, but it will also liberate. Name the need behind the attraction. Ask, what was I craving? Was it protection, validation, passion? Now, how can I begin to give that to myself without using someone else's confusion as a source? You'll find that the more you meet your own needs, the less magnetic, unavailable energy becomes. Close the loop energetically. Even if you're no longer in contact, the bond may still be open. You think of him. You wait for messages you feel unfinished. Write a letter you'll never send. Say everything, then burn it. Release the tie. You're not breaking a bond. You're reclaiming your power. Choose someone who chooses you. Not in theory. Not one day. Not when it's convenient. Someone who sees you, wants you, claims you, and in the light. If that sounds rare, it's because you haven't believed you deserve it yet. But you do. You always have. You were not born to be an option. You are not here to be hidden. Your love is not meant to live in stolen moments or whispered promises. Carl Jung reminds us, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But transformation only happens when both are present, whole, and willing. Half love will never create full healing. So if you've been here, in this space of emotional in-betweenness, this is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new one. One where your worth is not defined by someone else's inability to commit. Where your beauty is not measured by who desires you, but by how you honor yourself. You are not too much. You are not too intense. You are not a mistake. You are simply awakening. And with that awakening comes a choice to keep repeating what wounds you or to start choosing what restores you. So choose, not from fear, not from longing, but from truth. And let that truth lead you back to yourself.
Have you ever met someone and felt an immediate sense of comfort in your body, as if every cell recognized them before your mind could catch up? Or perhaps you've experienced the opposite, meeting someone who, on paper, seems perfect, yet your stomach tightens, your breath shortens, and something deep within you whispers, no, despite all logical reasons to say yes. This isn't coincidence or mere chemistry. Carl Jung discovered decades ago that your body possesses an ancient wisdom that knows the truth about your connections with others, long before your conscious mind can rationalize it away. The wisdom of your body speaks a language more ancient than words, one that Jung believed holds the key to finding your true partner. You've been taught to trust your mind, to make lists of qualities you desire in a partner, to rationally assess compatibility. But what if the most reliable compass to authentic love has been within you all along, speaking through sensations rather than thoughts? Jung understood that the body houses what he called the collective unconscious, a reservoir of shared human experience accumulated across generations. This unconscious wisdom manifests physically when you encounter someone significant to your soul's journey. It's not the butterflies of infatuation that signal true alignment, but something far more subtle and profound. Think about the last time you met someone new. Perhaps they said all the right things, shared your interests, and matched your conscious criteria for a partner. But something felt off, a tightness in your chest, a subtle repulsion you couldn't name, or simply an absence of the deep peace that comes with genuine connection. Your body was speaking, attempting to guide you through its own intuitive language. Jung called this soma psychic awareness, the body's ability to register unconscious recognition before the mind can process it. This isn't mystical thinking, but deeply scientific. Your nervous system processes millions of subtle cues, micro-expressions, pheromones, voice tonality, and energetic resonance, creating an immediate physical response that reflects a deeper truth than conscious analysis ever could. Remember that person who seemed so wrong for you on paper, yet being around them brought an unexplainable sense of safety and expansion. Your body recognized a soul-level compatibility that transcended your conscious preferences. This is what Jung referred to as the embodied unconscious, the body's ability to recognize what the ego cannot yet see. When you're with someone truly aligned with your authentic self, your body responds in unmistakable ways. Your breathing deepens, your shoulders relax, time seems to slow, and you experience what Jung called the absence of effort, that rare feeling where you don't need to perform or pretend. Your nervous system knows it's safe to rest in its parasympathetic state, what modern psychology calls ventral vagal activation, the physiological signature of true connection. This wisdom isn't new. Ancient cultures understood this embodied knowing. The Greeks spoke of Zeno, the stranger who is paradoxically familiar. Eastern philosophies discuss pratitya samutpada, the interdependent co-arising of souls meant to meet. What Jung contributed was understanding how this manifests through specific physical cues that we can learn to consciously interpret. Pay attention to these subtle signals. Do your muscles relax in their presence? Does your breathing naturally synchronize with theirs? Do you feel more energy after being with them rather than depleted? These are not random sensations, but meaningful data from your unconscious, what Jung called somatic signifiers of soul recognition. But here's what most people miss. This bodily wisdom operates beyond your conditioned preferences. It's not about finding someone who matches your conscious type or fulfills your ego's desires. It's about recognizing the person who resonates with your authentic self, the self that exists beneath the layers of adaptation and compromise. Many of us have become disconnected from this innate guidance system. We've been taught to override our instincts, to ignore the whispers of our bodies in favor of social expectations or intellectual compatibility. We dismiss that gut feeling as irrational or unimportant, but Jung warned that this disconnection leads to what he called psychosomatic splitting, a division between what we think we want and what our souls truly need. This disconnection manifests in relationships that look perfect on social media, but feel empty when the phones are put away. It appears as the confusion of being with someone who meets all your criteria, yet leaves you feeling subtly diminished. It shows up as the exhaustion that comes after spending time with someone who isn't aligned with your authentic self, even if you can't logically explain why. Jung observed that many people entered analysis because they had chosen partners based on conscious criteria, while ignoring their body's wisdom. The result was what he called somatic rebellion, psychosomatic symptoms that emerged as the body attempted to communicate what the conscious mind refused to see. Physical illness often followed relationships that contradicted this deeper knowing. Your body doesn't lie, it can't. Unlike your mind, which can rationalize and justify, your body responds with unflinching honesty to the energetic truth of your connections. This is why Jung placed such emphasis on what he called embodied awareness in relationship choices, learning to listen to and trust these physical responses as valuable guidance. Think of a time when you overrode your body's signals about someone. Perhaps there was initial tension or discomfort that you dismissed as nerves or uncertainty. How did that relationship ultimately unfold? Many discover that those initial bodily hesitations were prescient warnings of future difficulties. Conversely, recall someone whose presence immediately allowed your nervous system to settle, where conversation flowed effortlessly and time seemed to disappear. This state of relaxed alertness, what Jung called focused ease, often signals a connection worth exploring further. But what if your body has been sending you signals about the wrong people? There's a hidden reason Jung discovered that explains why your intuition might be leading you astray. The people who trigger the strongest physical reactions in you are often messengers of your own unhealed shadow. This revelation from Jung's work explains why some of the most intense bodily responses you've experienced in relationships may have led you toward pain rather than partnership. The shadow, that repository of disowned parts of yourself, doesn't whisper, it shouts through your body's reactions, creating powerful sensations that can be mistaken for love. When your heart races, your palms sweat, and your body seems magnetically drawn to someone despite red flags waving all around you, you're likely experiencing what Jung called shadow projection, a phenomenon where your body recognizes aspects of yourself you've hidden away, now appearing before you in human form. This isn't the calm recognition of rightness, but the chaotic pull of completion through another. You've been taught that intense chemistry is the hallmark of true connection. Pop culture reinforces this with stories of irresistible attraction, butterflies and sleepless nights thinking about someone new. But Jung understood something more nuanced. The most powerful physical reactions often point not to your perfect match, but to your perfect mirror, someone who embodies the exact qualities you've repressed in yourself. Consider the woman intensely drawn to the emotionally unavailable partner. Her body responds with longing, anxiety, and the addictive cycle of rare moments of connection, followed by withdrawal. According to Jung, this isn't love but recognition, the body identifying the externalized version of her own disowned emotional unavailability. The intensity she feels isn't evidence of rightness, but of a soul attempting to heal by finding its missing pieces outside itself. The shadow creates distinct physical responses, obsessive thinking that manifests as tension in the body, difficulty eating or sleeping, and a sense of desperate yearning. Jung called this state unconscious possession, when your body becomes consumed by the projection of your own unintegrated aspects onto another person. It feels like love because it's familiar. It feels significant because it is, but not in the way you believe. This explains why we often feel the strongest pull toward those who ultimately cannot meet our needs. Your body recognizes the shadow dance, the opportunity to engage with disowned parts of yourself through the vehicle of relationship. The electrical charge you feel isn't destiny but opportunity, the chance to reclaim what you've lost through the mirror of another. The shadow's attraction has a particular physical signature, a combination of extreme highs and lows, tension and release, euphoria and despair. It creates what Jung termed cycling arousal states, the physiological roller coaster that many mistake for passion, but which actually signals the volatile nature of shadow projection. Your body alternates between activation and collapse, between yearning and fear, creating an addictive cycle that keeps you bound to relationships that cannot truly nourish you. Pay attention to these physical responses. Does being with them create a sense of desperate longing? Do you feel anxious when apart? Does the relationship create somatic symptoms like chest tightness, shallow breathing, or digestive issues? These aren't signs of deep connection, but of shadow material being activated. Jung observed that true compatibility creates bodily ease, not distress. Many women have been conditioned to interpret anxiety as excitement, tension as passion, and obsession as devotion. But your body knows the difference. The shadow's pull creates what Jung called aroused discomfort, a state that feels alive, but lacks the fundamental peace that comes with genuine compatibility. It's the body's way of saying, there's important work here, but this isn't rest, this isn't home. Think about your pattern of attractions. Have you repeatedly been drawn to partners who embody qualities you were discouraged from expressing? The charismatic performer if you were taught to be modest, the aggressive personality if you were trained to be accommodating, the carefree spirit if you were raised to be responsible. Your body's strongest reactions often point to these complementary opposites, the externalized aspects of your disowned self. This isn't to dismiss the valuable learning that comes through these attractions. Jung believed the shadow's pull served evolutionary purpose, drawing us toward experiences that, while potentially painful, offer opportunities for wholeness. Every intense attraction holds potential for growth if we recognize it as internal work rather than external fate. The challenge lies in distinguishing between the shadow's electric pull and the subtle recognition of genuine compatibility. Jung provided a key insight. Shadow attractions intensify with distance and fantasy, while true compatibility deepens with presence and reality. When apart from a shadow projection, your body craves and idealizes. When apart from a true match, your body remembers and appreciates, without the desperate pull to reconnect. Another distinction: shadow attractions create what Jung called partial relaxation, moments of relief when the object of projection momentarily satisfies your unconscious needs, followed by renewed tension. True compatibility creates sustained regulation, an ongoing state of physiological ease that doesn't depend on specific behaviors from the other person. Many have experienced the confusion of meeting someone who creates both intense activation and profound anxiety. Your body seems to say both yes and no simultaneously. Jung explained this contradiction. The yes comes from the opportunity for integration the person represents. The no comes from your authentic self, recognizing that external solutions to internal divisions never succeed. This explains the common experience of being physically drawn to someone while simultaneously feeling a sense of dread or knowing it won't end well. It's not confusion, but clarity. Different aspects of your embodied wisdom communicating different truths. The pull is real and meaningful, but it's pointing toward inner work, not lasting partnership. Healing this pattern requires what Jung called embodied integration, the process of reclaiming projected qualities through conscious relationship with your own body. As you learn to express the disowned aspects of yourself, assertiveness, vulnerability, power, surrender, passion, peace, the compulsive attraction to those who embody these qualities begins to transform. Your body no longer needs external completion because wholeness is being restored from within. This integration changes your physical responses to others. The desperate longing diminishes, the anxiety lessens. You begin to recognize the difference between intensity and intimacy, between the shadow's loud demands and the soul's quiet recognition. Your body becomes a more reliable instrument of discernment because it's no longer searching outside for what can only be found within. While your shadow can pull you toward the familiar pain, there's another force within you that recognizes your true match, one that creates an entirely different physical response that most people completely overlook. When you meet someone truly aligned with your soul's journey, your body responds with synchronicities that Jung called a causal connecting principles. These are not mere coincidences, but meaningful patterns that manifest physically when two people share a significant soul connection. Your body becomes the vessel through which these synchronicities express themselves, creating sensations so subtle yet profound that they're easy to miss in our culture, obsessed with drama and intensity. Jung discovered that authentic connections create what he termed somatic synchronicity, physical responses that seem orchestrated by something beyond conscious awareness. Perhaps you've experienced this. Meeting someone and finding your breath naturally synchronizing with theirs, your gestures unconsciously mirroring each other, or discovering your bodies instinctively maintain a perfect distance without effort or awkwardness. These aren't random occurrences, but evidence of what Jung called the field of relationship, an energetic resonance between two compatible systems. Unlike the chaotic arousal of shadow attractions, synchronistic connections create what modern neuroscience calls co-regulation, a harmonious interaction between two nervous systems. Your heart rates may entrain, your breathing patterns align, and you experience what researchers now call physiological coherence, a state where your bodies seem to communicate beyond words, creating a shared biological rhythm. You might notice unusual timing coincidences, thinking of them seconds before they call, arriving at the same place simultaneously without planning, or discovering parallel life experiences that create an uncanny sense of recognition. Jung saw these not as supernatural phenomena, but as expressions of a deeper ordering principle in the psyche, made visible through the body's reactions and real-world events. Your body registers these synchronicities through distinct sensations, a feeling of recognition that transcends logic, an inexplicable sense of familiarity with someone new, or what Jung called numinous resonance, the quiet awe that arises when you sense a connection orchestrated by something larger than your individual desires. It often manifests as a profound calm, a subtle warmth in the chest, or what many describe as coming home in another's presence. These physical responses differ dramatically from shadow attractions. Rather than the addictive cycle of craving and satisfaction, synchronistic connections create what Jung termed sustained presence, an ongoing state of ease that doesn't diminish with familiarity, but deepens with time. Your body doesn't oscillate between extremes, but settles into a quiet recognition that feels both exciting and peaceful simultaneously. Pay attention to these subtler signals. Does time seem to slow or expand in their presence? Do conversations flow effortlessly, as if following an invisible pattern? Do you feel more yourself rather than performing or striving? Does their touch feel both new and strangely familiar? These are what Jung called embodied synchronicities, physical manifestations of meaningful connection. A woman described meeting her partner and experiencing what she called recognition without memory. Her body knew him, though her mind had no reference point for this knowing. This is a classic synchronistic connection. What Jung believed was evidence of an archetypal pattern being activated between two people, creating physical sensations that transcend personal history. Synchronicity often reveals itself through dreams and bodily intuitions before rational awareness catches up. You might dream of someone before meeting them, experience inexplicable physical sensations that only make sense when you encounter them, or find your body gravitating towards certain places where significant meetings later occur. Jung called these prospective synchronicities, the body's anticipation of meaningful connections before they manifest in external reality. These experiences aren't mystical accidents, but expressions of what Jung termed the unus mundus, a unified reality, where psyche and matter, internal and external, are revealed as different expressions of the same underlying patterns. Your body serves as the bridge between these worlds, registering resonance through sensation, before your mind can comprehend it through thought. Consider the difference in your body's response to different relationships. With some, you feel the need to manage impressions, monitor your words, and maintain a certain image, creating subtle tension throughout your system. With synchronistic connections, your body experiences what Jung called the relief of authenticity. Muscles relax, breathing deepens, and you discover the unique pleasure of being fully seen without performance. This manifestation of synchronicity creates distinct physical markers, sustained eye contact that feels nourishing rather than invasive, comfortable silence that doesn't need filling, and what Jung called boundary resonance, the natural ease of navigating personal space without explicit negotiation. Your bodies seem to know how to dance together, creating patterns of approach and distance that honor both connection and autonomy. The most profound physical synchronicities often appear in moments of vulnerability. Your body intuitively senses when it's safe to reveal deeper truths, responding with openness rather than contraction. Jung observed that authentic connections create autonomic coherence, the parasympathetic nervous system's recognition of safety, allowing vulnerability to emerge without the physiological signatures of fear. Many have experienced the phenomenon of meeting someone and finding physical symptoms mysteriously resolving, chronic tension releasing, sleep improving, or energy expanding. Jung understood this as evidence of what he called soul medicine, the body's recognition of connections that facilitate healing and wholeness. This isn't magical thinking, but acknowledgement of how profoundly our physiology responds to authentic recognition and acceptance. Synchronicity also appears through timing, meeting someone precisely when you're prepared to receive the gifts of the connection. Your body has been undergoing its own preparation, perhaps through illness, transition, or challenge, creating the conditions for recognition when the right person appears. Jung called this kairos time, the body's alignment with meaningful timing beyond chronological scheduling. This explains why meaningful connections often arrive after periods of solitude, healing, or radical honesty with yourself. Your body creates the resonant field necessary for recognition only when internal alignment reaches a certain threshold. The synchronicity isn't just in meeting the right person, but in becoming the person capable of recognizing them through your embodied awareness. Unlike the desperate pull of the shadow, synchronistic connections create what Jung termed inspired action, movements that feel guided rather than driven, arising naturally rather than from compulsion. You might find yourself taking uncharacteristic steps that later reveal their perfection, making choices that felt inexplicably right in the moment and proved wise in retrospect. But there's a dangerous counterfeit to this authentic connection that has trapped countless souls in relationships that slowly drain their life force, and the warning signs appear in your body first. Your nervous system can mistake intensity for intimacy, creating powerful sensations that feel like the one, but are actually trauma bonds in disguise. This phenomenon, which Jung identified long before modern trauma psychology had language for it, explains why so many intelligent, self-aware women find themselves repeatedly drawn to relationships that recreate familiar pain despite their conscious desire for something different. The false positive creates a particular signature in your body, one that mimics the excitement of authentic connection but contains subtle distortions that, once recognized, can save you years of misdirected emotional investment. Jung called this neurological patterning, the body's tendency to respond not to what's healthy, but to what's familiar, creating powerful sensations that feel significant precisely because they activate old neural pathways. Think about a relationship that felt intensely right in the beginning, but gradually revealed itself to be a recreation of childhood dynamics. The initial physical response, butterflies, excitement, the sense of recognition, wasn't wrong. Your body was accurately detecting a match, but not to your authentic needs. Rather, it was recognizing the precise emotional pattern it had been programmed to seek based on early experiences. This explains why the body can send seemingly contradictory signals, the excitement of recognition, alongside subtle anxiety, powerful attraction paired with a barely perceptible sense of danger. Jung understood this contradiction as evidence of different parts of the nervous system responding to different aspects of the connection. The limbic brain recognizing familiar emotional patterns, while the more evolved prefrontal cortex registers potential threat. The false positive often begins with what Jung called hyperstimulation, an intensified state of physiological arousal that feels like heightened aliveness. Your senses become sharper, colors more vivid, and emotions more accessible. This state is neurologically similar to the hypervigilance developed in childhood to navigate unpredictable environments. It feels significant because it once ensured your survival. Pay careful attention to these physical responses. Does the connection create a sense of urgency? Does your nervous system fluctuate between intense excitement and subtle dread? Do you feel slightly off balance, as if constantly adjusting to maintain the connection? These are what Jung termed adaptation markers, signs that your system is working overtime to accommodate a match to old patterns rather than current needs. Modern neuroscience has validated Jung's insights through the concept of neuroception, your nervous system's ability to detect safety or danger below conscious awareness. False positives occur when neuroception identifies familiar danger patterns but interprets them as attraction due to early conditioning. Your body responds with a complex mix of arousal hormones that feel like chemistry, but actually signal recognition of familiar threat. This explains why many women report feeling most alive, most seen, or most passionate in relationships, that ultimately recreate childhood wounds. The intensity is real, but its source is misinterpreted. Jung observed that the body responds most powerfully to opportunities to resolve unfinished emotional business, creating sensations easily confused with soul recognition. The false positive has distinct phases in the body: initial hyperarousal that feels like intense connection, followed by what Jung called regulatory collapse, periods of emotional exhaustion as your system cannot sustain the adaptation required. This creates the addictive cycle of intermittent reinforcement, powerful reconnection experiences followed by disconnection, training your body to associate longing and uncertainty with love. Many have experienced becoming uncharacteristically obsessed with someone, thinking about them constantly, feeling physical symptoms of yearning when apart. Jung recognized this not as evidence of special connection, but as limbic resonance with unintegrated material. Your body's response to someone who perfectly triggers your unresolved emotional patterns, creating a physical state of hyperattachment easily mistaken for love. How can you distinguish between the false positive and authentic connection? Jung identified key differences in how your body responds over time. The false positive creates initial intensity that requires increasing stimulation to maintain, while authentic connection generates a sustainable energetic exchange that deepens rather than depletes with familiarity. Notice these distinctions. Does being with them require emotional or physical recovery afterward? Do you feel subtly drained rather than nourished by their presence? Does maintaining the connection require increasingly dramatic experiences to generate the same feeling of closeness? These are what Jung called energetic markers of incongruence, your body's recognition that something fundamental doesn't align despite surface compatibility. Another crucial difference: false positives create what Jung termed conditional regulation. Your nervous system settles only when the other person behaves in certain ways, creating bodily vigilance and reactivity. Authentic connections generate foundational regulation, a baseline sense of ease that persists through conflict or difference because the fundamental safety between you remains intact. Many women have experienced the confusion of powerful attraction, combined with subtle physical symptoms, tension headaches, digestive issues, disrupted sleep patterns, or unexplained fatigue when with someone who seems perfect on paper. Jung saw these as the body's wisdom, attempting to communicate through discomfort what the conscious mind isn't ready to recognize. But beneath the excitement lies fundamental incompatibility. The body responds differently to projection than to authentic recognition. Projection creates what Jung called partial resonance, intense connection around specific qualities, while other aspects of interaction create subtle dissonance. You might feel deeply understood in intellectual conversation, but physically tense during intimate moments, or emotionally seen but physically contracted when discussing certain topics. This partiality reveals itself through communication patterns. With false positives, your body often sends mixed messages, leaning in while crossing arms, smiling while muscles tense, or saying yes while exhaling, with subtle signs of resignation. Jung observed these somatic contradictions as evidence of incongruence between conscious desire and deeper knowing. The clearest physical distinction comes through what Jung called the authenticity test, how your body responds when expressing difficult truths, setting boundaries, or revealing vulnerabilities. With false positives, these moments create anticipatory tension, carefully calculated risk assessment, and subtle bracing against potential rejection. With authentic connections, your nervous system maintains fundamental regulation even while navigating challenge. Many women have had the experience of feeling inexplicably exhausted in a relationship that looks perfect from the outside. This fatigue isn't random, but what Jung called the energy cost of incongruence, the physical toll of maintaining connection with someone who matches your patterns but not your essence. Your body expends enormous energy bridging the gap between what seems right and what feels right at a cellular level. Once you've learned to recognize the false positive, you develop what Jung termed somatic discernment, the ability to distinguish between the loud signals of familiar patterns and the quieter knowing of authentic recognition. This doesn't mean ignoring chemistry or excitement, but developing the capacity to read these responses as data rather than destiny. Jung believed we are drawn toward false positives, not through failure, but through the psyche's brilliant attempt at healing. These attractions represent opportunities to consciously address what has remained unconscious, to integrate what has been fragmented. The powerful bodily responses aren't wrong. They're meaningful communications about important inner work. Once you understand this distinction, there's a specific physical sensation Jung identified that serves as the most reliable compass to your authentic partner. One that most people miss because they're looking for something far more dramatic. The true signal of right partnership isn't the thunderbolt, but the gentle exhale, a physical response Jung called the homecoming. This subtle bodily recognition stands in stark contrast to the dramatic attractions our culture has taught us to pursue and idealize. It manifests not as overwhelming passion, but as a profound sense of cellular recognition, a quieting of the nervous system that speaks volumes in its simplicity. Jung observed that authentic compatibility creates a distinctive physiological state he termed embodied belonging, a sensation of rightness so fundamental it can initially be overlooked. Unlike the adrenaline rush of chemistry, or the obsessive thinking of projection, this response often registers first as an absence. The absence of effort, the absence of performance, the absence of the subtle vigilance that characterizes most interactions. You might have experienced this, meeting someone and finding your body settling into a state of unusual ease. Conversation flows without strategy. Silence feels comfortable rather than awkward, and you discover yourself breathing more deeply, your muscles relaxing without conscious intention. These aren't dramatic signals, but profound ones, what Jung called the somatic signature of authenticity. This recognition often appears gradually rather than instantly. Your body may register subtle cues of compatibility over hours, days, or even weeks of interaction. Unlike the immediate chemical attraction of sexual chemistry or the recognition of familiar patterns, authentic compatibility reveals itself through accumulated moments of ease, what Jung described as the body's gradual unwinding in the presence of truth. Pay attention to these quieter signals. Do you find yourself exhaling more fully in their presence? Does your voice naturally find its authentic tone rather than adapting to match theirs? Does your posture express openness without effort? Do you leave interactions feeling energized rather than depleted? These are what Jung identified as markers of energetic congruence, signs that the connection supports your authentic expression rather than requiring adaptation. Many have dismissed compatible partners because they mistakenly equated absence of drama with absence of passion. Jung warned against this confusion, noting that the body responds differently to sustainable connection than to exciting incongruence. The former creates what he called steady-state vitality, a continuous feeling of aliveness that doesn't depend on conflict, uncertainty, or extraordinary circumstances to generate intensity. This quieter recognition often registers through surprising physical responses, sleeping more deeply after time together, improved digestion, reduced muscle tension, or what many describe as a general sense of well-being that persists beyond the interaction itself. Jung saw these as the body's affirmation of connections that support health rather than stimulate coping mechanisms. A woman described meeting her now husband and being initially confused by her reaction. There were no butterflies, just this strange feeling that I'd been holding my breath my whole life and could finally exhale. This is classic homecoming recognition, the body's response to a connection that allows for true relaxation into authenticity rather than mobilizing defenses or adaptations. Unlike the familiar patterns of childhood conditioning, authentic compatibility creates what Jung called novel familiarity, a paradoxical sensation of recognizing something you've never actually experienced before. Your body responds not to the recreation of old patterns, but to the opportunity for new experiences of safety, acceptance, and understanding that align with your true needs rather than your adaptations. The quiet recognition has a particular effect on time perception. Moments together have a quality of fullness rather than acceleration. Rather than time disappearing in the rush of intense chemistry, it expands into a rich present moment. Jung observed this as kairos time, the body's experience of meaningful time rather than chronological time, creating a distinctive quality of unhurried presence. This recognition creates a unique pattern of eye contact, not the intensity of infatuation or the avoidance of discomfort, but what Jung called restful gaze, the ability to see and be seen without performance or defense. Your eyes relax, pupils dilate slightly, and you experience the rare pleasure of being witnessed without the subtle tension that accompanies most human interactions. Many have noticed unusual synchronicities in the body when meeting compatible partners, complementary energy levels, similar needs for space and connection, naturally harmonious rhythms of activity and rest. Jung saw these not as coincidences, but as expressions of what he called typological resonance, the body's recognition of someone whose natural patterns complement rather than challenge your own. The physiological signature of right partnership reveals itself most clearly during stress, transition, or vulnerability. When life becomes challenging, does their presence help regulate your nervous system or further dysregulate it? Jung observed that authentic compatibility creates what he called co-regulatory capacity, the ability to help each other return to equilibrium during difficulty rather than amplifying each other's activation. This capacity manifests through tangible physical responses. Stress hormones reduce in their presence, heart rate variability improves, immune function strengthens, and the body accesses deeper resources for healing and restoration. Modern research validates what Jung intuited, that certain relationships create measurable improvements in physiological function, while others, despite their intensity, create subtle but consistent deregulation. The quiet recognition often appears most powerfully through touch, not just sexual connection, but the simple contact of daily life. Jung noted that compatible partners create what he called tactile ease, touch that feels simultaneously novel and familiar, that registers as both exciting and calming, that requires no performance or adjustment, but allows genuine reciprocity of giving and receiving. This manifests in mundane moments that contain surprising intimacy, a hand on the back while passing in the kitchen, shoulders touching while sitting side by side, or the subtle leaning toward each other in conversation. Your body responds to these moments, not with dramatic arousal, but with a quality of recognition Jung called cellular memory, as if your tissues themselves remember a connection that transcends your personal history. Many have experienced the revelation of meeting someone who matches their unspoken rhythms of conversation, of physical intimacy, of activity and rest. This synchronization creates what Jung termed effortless attunement, the rare experience of not having to constantly adjust your natural tempo to maintain connection. Your nervous system registers this compatibility through a distinctive quality of ease that persists, even through disagreement or difference. Unlike romantic notions of partners who complete us by providing what we lack, Jung observed that sustainable compatibility often appears between people who share core qualities while expressing complementary differences. Your body recognizes this compatibility through what he called resonant autonomy, the paradoxical experience of feeling more fully yourself in their presence rather than merged or diminished. This autonomy reveals itself through a particular quality of personal space. You don't feel the need to merge completely, nor to defend your boundaries vigilantly. Instead, you experience what Jung called fluid boundaries, the natural expansion and contraction of closeness that respects both connection and individuality without explicit negotiation or effort. Many women have described the confusion of meeting someone who created none of the drama they associated with love, yet somehow felt more right than any previous relationship. This confusion stems from what Jung called pattern interruption, when your body recognizes authenticity that doesn't match your conditioning, creating a temporary disorientation as your system recalibrates to health rather than familiarity. The quiet recognition doesn't mean absence of chemistry or passion. Rather, Jung observed that authentic compatibility creates what he called sustainable vitality, desire that doesn't depend on uncertainty, withholding or power dynamics to maintain itself. Your body responds differently to this connection, with consistent warmth rather than dramatic highs and lows, with desire that grows through safety rather than requiring danger to ignite. But even after you've found this person, there's a critical phase Jung warned about where your body will seem to betray you, testing the authenticity of your connection in ways few are prepared for. When you've found the right person, your body enters a phase Jung called the alchemical marriage, a physical integration that will test everything you believe about love. This critical stage explains why even the most promising connections can suddenly feel threatening, why unexpected physical symptoms might emerge just as you begin to trust, and why the deepest healing often follows periods of confusing regression. Jung understood that authentic partnership inevitably activates what he called the body's wisdom of resistance, a series of physical responses designed not to sabotage connection, but to ensure its depth and authenticity. This resistance appears not because the connection is wrong, but precisely because it is right, because it has the potential to transform everything your body has organized itself around for protection and survival. This phase creates distinctive physical responses that many misinterpret as warning signs. You might experience sudden anxiety after periods of deep connection, inexplicable physical symptoms that appear during moments of increasing intimacy, or what Jung called regressive body states, temporary returns to patterns of tension, withdrawal or activation that you thought were resolved. These responses aren't evidence of incompatibility, but of what Jung termed the necessary reorganization. Your nervous system's profound recalibration as it encounters the possibility of sustained safety after organizing around threat. It's the physiological equivalent of eyes adjusting to light after prolonged darkness, temporarily painful, not because light is harmful, but because the system requires time to adapt to what it has long been deprived of. Many women have experienced the bewildering cycle of opening to love and then feeling an inexplicable urge to create distance through criticism, conflict, or withdrawal. Jung recognized this pattern as somatic ambivalence, the body's attempt to regulate the vulnerability that comes with authentic connection by returning to familiar defenses. It's not rejection of the connection, but protection against its transformative power. This ambivalence reveals itself through tangible physical signals, sleep disturbances as the body processes deeper emotional material, digestive sensitivity as cellular patterns reorganize, unusual dreams that reflect internal integration, or what Jung called unconscious body memories, sensations that seem unrelated to present experience but represent old patterns rising to consciousness for healing. The integration challenge often manifests through what modern therapists call window of tolerance constriction, a temporary narrowing of your capacity to remain regulated during emotional intimacy. You might find yourself more easily triggered, more sensitive to perceived rejection, or experiencing what Jung termed nervous system flashbacks, physical responses to present vulnerability that mirror past experiences of danger. Pay attention to these physical transitions. Do you experience unusual fatigue after moments of deep connection? Does vulnerability create subtle nausea or chest tightness? Do you find yourself physically withdrawing after emotional closeness? These aren't signs to end the relationship, but what Jung called integration markers, evidence that your system is processing significant change rather than maintaining familiar patterns. Unlike toxic relationships that create ongoing dysregulation, the integration
Hi
challenge
guys,
creates what
thank
Jung
you so
called
much.
developmental
1 hour na
dysregulation,
guys.
temporary
Bye. I
disruption
really
that
thank
leads to
you,
expanded capacity.
HMM.
The key
Enjoy
difference
your
appears in the
lunch to
recovery
all the
pattern.
viewers.
Toxic
Sir
connections
JC,
create
I'm
escalating symptoms
working
that worsen over
again.
time,
And
while
Brother
authentic
Dan, thank you so
connections generate
much.
cycles of
To
disruption,
all my
followed by deeper
siskoy. Sorry,
regulation
I've
than was
been
possible before.
busy.
This
God bless
explains why many people
everyone.
experience health challenges during periods of new love. Your body initiates what Jung called cellular reorganization, a profound restructuring of the somatic, as old patterns